Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. I know it's been a while and I have a lot to say, but I'll leave the update stuff for the end of the video, because I'm here to talk about Seaspiracy. I know the film has been out for quite a while, but I've been sick and now I have a sudden strive motivation to just finish off this video because I've had this script for quite a while, and because the ocean is something I'm kinda genuinely passionate about. And I also need to prove some people wrong about their opinions on this film, so... Seaspiracy is a new documentary that has recently been released on Netflix and has gained quite its fair share of popularity. Some people seem to like it, and others don't really seem to like it, and I very much fall into that category. I mean, it's not really a good thing when you search up the title of the movie and most of the results are videos debunking and claiming the details in the documentary to be fake. Even despite this controversy, the documentary itself as a whole is just kind of badly made. The documentary starts off with a montage of extremely bad editing. It's very flashy with lots of quick cuts and just makes the visuals very difficult to be seen. The whole film kind of just feels like a YouTube video. It presents itself in a very YouTube vlog slash documentary kind of way, which is not really what you want from a feature-length film. Right off the back, we're presented with information that is all gathered by Ali Tabrizi, who directed and edited the film as well as starring in it. Tabrizi says multiple times that he finds out about a thing that's new to him, and he shows a bunch of secondary sources to aid his explanation about the issues he talks about. And the issues in the documentary are some genuine issues that I do believe were worth talking about for a huge audience to view and gain an understanding of. The issues of animal cruelty and murder, waste within the ocean due to plastic pollution, identifying the flaws with corporate sustainable fishing companies, bycatch and fish farming are all current issues that need to be brought to light. But this documentary doesn't do a good job at handling this. A lot of the documentary feels very unprofessional because a huge chunk of it is just secondary research. It's perfectly fine to use these secondary sources to aid information, but Ali doesn't bring any of his own information to the table. The purpose of documentaries is to provide primary and secondary research and development on a certain topic, but this documentary doesn't really do that. Even the information that isn't backed up by a source just feels like it could be obtained with one Google search. Which is funny because Ali makes reference to Jacques Cousteau twice in this documentary, but he's just a simple Google search away from Cousteau's horrid past with animal cruelty.
Now I'm going to go hunt down that shark, or whatever it is, and hopefully kill it. I don't know how yet, maybe dynamite.
The first main issue the documentary tackles is the dolphin slaughter in Taiji. One of the people Ali interviews about the dolphin slaughter is Richard O'Barry, who is funnily enough an integral part of the 2000 documentary The Cove, which is about the same Taiji dolphin slaughter and handles it much better than Seaspiracy. In Seaspiracy, the documenters pretty much copy all the events of The Cove, and I found it pretty astonishing considering the fact that they literally interviewed the guy who was an integral part in the making of that film. In Seaspiracy, they enter Taiji and are followed and questioned by authorities. They witness the dolphin slaughter and film it, but they do nothing to act upon this. They go to Taiji with the impression that this stuff has never been filmed before, kind of like a mission of exposure, but all this information is already exposed to the world. I mean, he literally found out about it by reading the Taiji whale hunt wiki page. The reason why The Cove is so important in comparison to this film is that the crew in that film actually tried to oppose the threat. They tried to make a change and properly document in depth their discoveries and experiences. Seaspiracy just takes all that and summarizes it to the bare minimum. They even share and express the same information that The Cove did, such as saying that dolphins were sold to SeaWorld, which was literally the first thing mentioned in The Cove.
The next morning, all of these dolphin trainers will be lined up, selecting the ones that they want for the dolphinariums.
The big ticket is catching young dolphins and whales and selling them to marine parks.
And this is just one of the many points that Seaspiracy just steals from The Cove. Seaspiracy talks about the involvement of the police and government authorities. The Cove talks about that. Seaspiracy talks about the fisheries in Taiji and why they slaughter the dolphins because they're seen as a threat to killing the fish. The Cove talks about that. And I've noticed this while editing, but just look at the end credits of both of these films. Like, I mean, come on. One thing that does differ in the information, though, is that Seaspiracy tells us that there isn't a market for dolphin meat. And yeah, that is a point that is mentioned in the Cove, that most of Japan doesn't know about the dolphin slaughter, so there wouldn't be a market for dolphin meat in most of Japan. But in Taiji, there still is a pretty big market for it. And this is what worries me about Seaspiracy, because it kind of feels like they put the bare minimum when concluding their research. Not only in this section, but with the documentary as a whole. I mean, the Cove basically handed them information of a silver platter, which they took most of the scraps from, and yet still got some information wrong. Another aspect that is really annoying is that they completely disregard the interview that they had with Richard O'Barry. They failed to credit the work that he did, and I mean also failed to mention the Cove. They literally just repeated the information he told them, and one of the integral points that he makes is that if they can't solve the issue in Taiji, they can't expect to solve any bigger issues.
If we can't fix this, what are you talking about, saving the ocean? How can you do that? You can't even fix this. This is the size of a football field.
And what do the Seaspiracy guys do with this? They go to Taiji for a small section of their film and immediately try approach different and larger problems, and completely just forget about the current issue they just mentioned. And this happens a lot within this documentary. They discuss the huge impact of plastic and how bad it is towards the environment, then to just say, oh wait, but bycatch is actually a greater problem that causes more death of species. Why would they have to go so in depth about the harm of plastic if they were just going to then disregard its impact, then talk about the more damaging impact of bycatch? The whole documentary just feels very bloated, like they wanted to talk about so many issues but they just crammed in too much stuff. And that's why the Cove is so much better, because it focuses on a certain problem and touches on all the surrounding issues because of this problem. I don't want to spend too much time comparing these two films, but just please go watch The Cove, because it's really great and one of my favorite documentaries. A pretty large section of this documentary includes many interviews with members of many different ocean-related companies. And instead of having a proper convincing interview with these companies, it kind of feels like he was just trying to call them out on the things they did wrong and don't build upon that. Like, I remember in one interview he asked why a company didn't have an important piece of information on their website, and he walks out of the interview achieving virtually nothing. He doesn't gain any information and doesn't provide any constructive criticism towards these companies and what they can do to improve. The way in which he handled these interviews also seemed very immature. Like, there was a lot of but this, but that, and there was no compelling arguments being brought to the table. One of the most unironically funniest moments in this film was when he asked a member of a company if the company uses slavery within its production. And I genuinely burst out laughing, because how non-logically do you have to think to ask a question like this? Because no matter what your position is or how a company is run behind the scenes, nobody is just going to reveal if they use slavery because that's illegal. The answer will always be no. Like, what? Why would he ask something like this?
I was doing some research, and I found out that a lot of Thai shrimp and prawns are coming from slave labor, people being kidnapped.
Oh, no.
It's not true?
No, not true.
Wow. So they're lying?
Lying.
So there's no slavery going on?
No.
Throughout the documentary, the director keeps saying he doesn't know what the biggest impact on the ocean is, and that's why he's making this film, because he's trying to find out what this huge impact is, as well as leading to the discussion of a variety of so many topics that just seems like a lack of trust. Like, why are we following this person that knows virtually nothing about the topics he's discussing? It just feels kind of fake. One of the main problems with this documentary is that it feels very difficult to tell what's actually documented and what was staged or reshot for the purpose of this film, because there's a lot of moments that feel almost inconsistent tonally, and they feel like they were acted out and completely not serious. Like, come on, you can't tell me the sequence right here was raw footage.
Allie, what is it?
This is just tuna. This is the tuna industry.
I'm going to direct you to one of the last scenes of the film where we are shown the whale hunts in the Faroe Islands. And this is probably one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen. The act itself is very devastating, but the tone the film approaches filming this event is even more cruel. The scene consists of ethereal music that is played over the deaths of these whales, and that as a whole just doesn't sit right with me. Why play any music at all in comparison to having no music that would create a more intense feeling and not force an emotion onto you? Because the music that is played, as I say again, is very ethereal. It's almost elegant and graceful and feels like it's trying to glorify the death of these whales, which is clearly not the implication in comparison to the imagery, which I also have a fair share of problems on. A shot like this, sure, yeah, this is a very beautifully constructed shot. The framing and composition is great, but that again is its problem. A beautiful shot like this doesn't sit right in what the film is trying to convey in this scene. The shot again just feels like it's trying to glorify this poor dead animal. Look at the way the guy is sitting. The implication is that we're supposed to look up to him. Look at what he's achieved, everyone. He's killed this poor, helpless animal. A hunter standing over his prey. The scene is also made up with such poor editing. When anything partially graphic happens, the film just cuts to black. Probably to keep the film at a PG-13 rating, but this poor editing just takes away from the experience, I guess. Like, sure, maybe not everyone wants to witness a pod of whales getting chopped up and beheaded, but the cuts to black, as well as ruining the flow of the scene, just feel like it makes the deaths of these animals meaningless. Personally, I think showing the entire clip creates a greater effect, as it only helps us realize entirely what's happening to these animals. It creates a more raw and genuine feeling. It shows us that this is a real issue. An issue that shouldn't be disregarded and cut off to black like it means nothing. These weren't the only issues I had with the documentary. There were some animated sequences that just felt like they came out of nowhere. The documentary felt very fast-paced, and it felt like it was switching between topics way too often. And the overall presentation just felt very formulaic, like any other documentary out there. But that's not to say that I entirely hated this documentary. As I say again, some of the messages this documentary expresses are very important. I like the extent to which they talked about bycatch. I think if maybe they just focused on that for their whole documentary, it would have been better, because it would have given them a single topic to focus on and bounce off of. I like that they considered subsistence fishes and their conditions when suggesting their final verdict that was just stop eating fish. I like that they actually focused on these people and said, like, these people need fish to survive, and they're doing it in a mostly sustainable way. And the whole motto of stop eating fish has very good implications, but fails to be compelling enough in order to properly enforce. I love the words spoken by Sylvia Earle. She's a queen and she's great. And yeah, that's about it. I think I'm going to give Seaspiracy a 4 out of 10. Okay, update time. So, a few days ago I said I was going to stream the Oscars. Where was that stream? Well, as I said earlier in the video, I got very sick. I don't know when this video is going to be uploaded, but at some point I just got really bad pharyngitis and I couldn't really move. I had to go to hospital. It was really not epic, so I couldn't do the Oscar stream. I'm sorry, everybody. And yeah, I have very important exams coming up soon, so this is going to be my last video for quite a while, I think. But after that, I shouldn't have any more exams for a while, so I can probably focus on this channel quite a bit more, which is really cool because we're really getting closer to 200 subscribers, and that's so cool. That's really cool. Thank you to everyone that has watched this video, and thank you to everyone that has supported thus far, and I'll see you all next time.